Hello, first grade. This is Mrs. Ball with your social studies lesson for today. Let's go ahead and get started. Our standard is SS 1.4, identify contributions of diverse significant figures that influence the local community and state in the past and present. Our essential question is, why do you think Martin Luther King Jr. insisted on nonviolence? Our I can statement is, I can identify important people that influence the local and state community. Hero for all, Martin Luther King Jr. Civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. never backed down in his stand against racism. Learn more about the life of this courageous hero who inspired millions of people to right a historical wrong. A hero is born. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1929. At the time, in that part of the country, segregation or the separation of races in places like schools, buses, and restaurants was the law. He experienced racial prejudice from the time he was very young, which inspired him to dedicate his life to achieving equality and justice for Americans of all colors. King believed that peaceful refusal to obey unjust law was the best way to bring about social change. So he did not think it was a good idea to be violent. He thought it was the best idea to be peaceful about demanding justice or fair or equal treatment for all people. Marching forward, and this is Dr. King here. King and his wife, Coretta Scott, led demonstrations on the fourth day of a historic 5-day march in 1965. Starting in Selma, Alabama, where local African Americans had been campaigning for the right to vote, King led thousands of nonviolent demonstrators 54 miles to the state capital of Montgomery. And boys and girls, we are in the city of Montgomery and the state is Alabama. So history happened right here where we live. Brave sacrifices. King was arrested several times during his lifetime. It means that he went to jail. In 1960, he joined black college students in a sit-in at a segregated lunch counter. President Presidential candidate John F. Kennedy interceded to have King released from jail, an action that is credited with helping Kennedy win the presidency. Speaking out, King inspires a large crowd with one of his many speeches. Raised in a family of preachers, he is considered one of the greatest speakers in U.S. history. Inspiring others. King waves to supporters from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. during the March on Washington. There, he delivered the I Have a Dream speech, which boosted public support for civil rights. And we're going to link this webpage so you can go back and you can listen to one of his speeches. Making history. President Lyndon B. Johnson shakes King's hand at the signing of the landmark 1964 Civil Rights Act, which outlawed racial segregation in publicly owned facilities. Family life. Dr. King had a family. This is his wife and children. King, his wife, Coretta Scott King, sit with three of their four children in their Atlanta, Georgia home in 1963. His wife shared the same commitment to ending the racist system they had both grown up under. A win for peace. Dr. King receives the Nobel Prize for Peace from Gunnar John, president of the Nobel Prize Committee, in Oslo, Norway, on December 10, 1964. Remembering a hero. A crowd of mourners follows the casket of King through the streets of Atlanta, Georgia, after his assassination in April 4, 1968. King was shot by James Earl Ray on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. Americans honor the civil rights activists on the third Monday of January each year, Martin Luther King Day, which is why we were not in school this past Monday, so we could celebrate and honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I hope that that you learned something, and I hope that I will see you next time.